Hello and welcome everyone. It is me, the awesome as the power to do this, back for you with another event deck profile. It's gonna be a busy month with these. That's why I kind of wanted to get this one out of the way ASAP. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump into the list. With Fusion and Link Festival, I initially wasn't thrilled because I don't like playing a Link version of this deck. And this was going to be another festival where like the payoffs were exactly like Firewall Dragon Pass and an IP Masquerader, so I wasn't thrilled about like breaking my back for like 2 disruptions again. So I decided to take a book out of the pages, a page out of the book. That's how that saying works. Of a deck that has yet to release in TCG that I'm pretty fond of, and that is Draco Tail, and play a Frightfur engine. Going to be quickly talking about the list. We're going to take a look at a couple replays, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the theory behind this. As you can probably tell, this is a list that I am blinding second with usually. Explains the thrusts in the main, the super poly, and the non-engine in general does fairly well align itself for that, as well as, these two making an appearance from, NNR format. But let's start here at the top with 3 copies of Southbound. Mainly just here for, board presence. The Morphtronics in this list are kind of just still Link fodder, of course, but also just like, guys that do put themselves onto the board fairly efficiently, which does kind of help you set up the GOAT, the absolute greatest fusion ever printed, probably after like B-Trooper Cruel Saturn. Guardian Chimera. Such an incredibly cool and fun card to play with. Dropping this on the opponent is chef's kiss. So yeah, Cellphone rolls a die, reveals top card, summons a Morphtronic from those that is level 4 or lower. So it helps you build an incredible amount of board presence to, get some pops out of Guardian Chimera, or, start making, good stuff links like Unicorn, Access Code Talker, or Goddess when you're playing into boards. Those do put in quite a bit of work. Helping with going second is the defense position effect of Vacuumin, as you're able to, suck up a face-up attack position monster the opponent controls, similar to, Relinquished, which has come in once or twice fairly funnily. I think we're going to see one of those moments in one of the replays that I do have for you guys. 3 smartphone here as, I guess, a sort of extender, because you can special summon this from your hand by banishing Morphtronic from the grave. And in attack position, it works similar to Southbound. You roll a die, reveal the top cards of your deck, and then you're able to add an Excavator Morphtronic card to your hand, which helps, find extenders like Converter and Repair unit. Did go down on Converter here in this just because I needed space, and with like 2 thrusts in the main, it's sort of workable. 3 telephone here, still, very infamous Link climbing tool, 1 on the field, 1 in the grave, if the 1 on field is live. You're in a world of hurt if you're on the receiving end. A lot of games did, I have to admit that, a good amount of games did boil down to, me resolving like a telephone loop into a board and then making like access code Goddess for game. So this isn't just, haha, funny fusions. This is more of a gimmick, if anything. But it was a very fun gimmick. Did make those games quite enjoyable. Yeah, Remoten is another great piece of extension. Banishes a Morphtronic from the grave, and if you do, you add a Morphtronic with the same level as the target from deck to hand with, a slightly more expansive lineup of level 1s. You do have a couple more targets to get you to important pieces like cell phone, smartphone, and telephone. So Remoten is still great for that. And I did round out the Morphtronic lineup with 2 copies of Slingin, which is essentially just a bit of an additional removal. I don't think I used Slingin once in this event, but having just more names felt good and correct. Ended up cutting Gadget Gamer mainly because I felt like there wasn't really a whole lot going. There wasn't like a whole lot that was worth going into off of it. When Gadget Gamer isn't making like Power Tool Dragon exactly, I think the card feels a lot weaker. I think that worked for me. I think realistically you can probably also shave like the 2 vacuum and the 2 slinging for like Gadget Gamer, Gadget Hauler. But I wanted to keep things, as flexible as possible. And have like no, silly garnets in this deck, even if, drawing the Hauler isn't bad because you can always poly it away. And then we're getting into the fun part, you could say, the Frightful package. Basically, all working off the base off of like one of the craziest consistency cards in the history of this game. Frightful Patchwork. This adds you an Edge Imp monster and a polymerization from your deck to hand is once per turn. The Edge Imp monster you're always adding to your hand is Edge Imp Chain, which if it's sent from hand or field to the grave, you can add a Frightful card from deck to hand. And if, the gears start turning in your head, yes, these two loop into each other. So you basically, Frightful Patchwork for Chain Poly. You make a fusion using the Chain, of course. And then the Chain triggers and adds you a Patchwork for the follow-up. Which is pretty cool. You're usually trying to, again, simplify board states off of, cards like Guardian, Chimera hitting the field, which are very huge tempo swings your opponent is probably not going to be able to do a whole lot against. And then, keep it either up from there or just take the game home in a singular turn. I'm on 3 poly. This didn't feel too bricky, admittedly. Even at worst, I was making like a Magnum the Reliever, which, helped, secure the board a bit more. Very good card. A huge fan of this guy since I've started playing Perform Mages. Very, very cool card. 1/1 for 1 here for additional, consistency, getting to, Cellphone, on occasion Vacuumin, or, of course, Telephone. 2 talents, just a good card that helps going second, similar to the thrusts here. On 2 converter, just to have like a couple Morphtronic extenders. I did not feel like I needed a whole lot of extenders in this list. Was considering machine duplication because the initial prompt behind this was like maybe haha funny Parapsychroid shenanigans, which I did end up making this once. And machine duplication would have helped greatly with making this card, but Parapsychroid is more of a meme than anything. So yeah, there is that, I suppose. 3 repair unit, even if it's not like searchable off a power 2 dragon, I still think this is an incredibly solid extender for the deck. Just helps you get, into better link situations quite a bit. Is like an archetypal premature burial. You discard a Morphtronic, target a Morphtronic in a grave, summon it, equip it with this card. Very simple. The one super polymerization, I think you probably, if you wanna like play something similar for the rest of the event, might want to look into crafting Garura for this. It's a one-off anyway, so I didn't feel like the need to do that. But I think with Garura, this probably would have done like a bit more work. 2 copper the grave against hand traps, 3 forbidden droplet, because, we're trying to go second, and this has put in a ton of work, like dodging, targeted, like, removal or, interaction. And 1 fusion duplication. This is, I think, the by far weakest card in the deck, and probably something I would be down to cut. I think I've seen this once, not activated it, and was like, yep, this sure wasn't it. Yeah. This maybe, again, slot for like the Gadget Gamer engine. I didn't feel like I missed it too much, but if you want to run like a 1-card link to suit yourself, this is probably like a good space to be putting, like a Gadget Gamer or something. I don't know. For fusions, which is a sentence I never thought I'd be saying in, one of these, we're on a Mud Dragon of the Swamp, more here as like, of course, a super polymerization target, a Parapsychroid because it's funny and he looks very cool, a Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, again, super poly target. Draco Stapelia is kind of both. It's like a super poly target, and you can somewhat realistically make this as you do have a like main deck dark with Edge Imp Chains. So you can like on occasions turn like a Magnum the Reliever that lived a turn into this guy. Magnum Reliever is a great card. Like, honestly, great, very cool card. Can either, shuffle a poly from the graveyard back into the deck to draw 1, which has come in clutch quite a bit of times to turn a Frightful Patchwork I had in hand live again. I think in like three or 4 games I did turn a Frightful Patchwork live off of putting one poly back and getting a draw in. And when another card or its effect is activated, you can banish a poly or fusion spell from the grave and target the card on the field, destroy it. Very solid piece of interaction. There's not a whole lot of, strings attached to this guy. Very cool card. Did put in quite a ton of work for me. And then the one that like carried the whole list, Guardian Chimera. Takes 3 monsters, different names, has to be fusioned using materials from your hand and field, and with at least one monster from each. If it's fusion summoned by a spell card or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards used as material from the hands. And if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of cards used as material from the field. This is massive. Usually something that is just a big idiot you're kind of dropping that kind of goes even 0 on average. While, probably getting rid of a lot of your opponent's stuff, which is pretty cool. Really like this guy. For links, we're on the good stuff. An Anima, again, going second, this helps quite a ton. A Clockwork Knight, even if, sadly, I did have to see that, they banned the continuous spell, which was very rude. So that was like a very sad realization once this event started, but still a great card. Helped me make a Parasite once, so thumbs up for that. A Nightmare Phoenix, a Platinum Gadget to help extension, an IP Masquerena is like a theoretical end board piece, but again, link payoffs in this format felt like so limited. No Appaloosa. Trigate Wizard is like something you have to break your back for to get like an Omni out of it. An OG Firewall Dragon is like cute, but after doing that once, I was like, maybe not. So yeah, that's why I'm playing Proxy Magician. This made Parasite once, and then I think came up again because it's a generic link to. Unicorn, Access Code, Goddess, as mentioned earlier, the big 3 when it comes to, breaking your opponent's board when you're going second and do just have access to link plays. So yeah, with that being said, let's look at a couple replays and yeah, see how this deck performed. Well, we're starting short and sweet. Something more silly and funny than, actually like, crazy amounts of gameplay. Because, with events, you're going to see like certain loners a bit more often than others, and, some of the loners are better than others. Case and point, Dark Magician loner, kind of throwing the entire hand into a Dark Dragoon with like 1 negate when I have the out in hand. I was chuckling to myself like a little schoolboy again when all this was transpiring, because once my opponent went for that Dragoon, oh boy, he was in for a world of hurt. There's like a bit of a sequencing error. Of course, fire the Patchwork before you start revealing cards just a deck thin. It is what it is, I don't usually run Fright for Patchwork and Morphtronics. I think, I personally can forgive myself for that. Maybe you can also find it within yourself. This is the one game where Proxiev does shine a bit, and this is also the one game where I actually made Parasite, which I was kind of like, okay, do I let Parasite run over the Dragoon because it's kind of funny? But yeah, Proxiev, very good card. Just like something I noticed in this game, just a very good card. It's just like a walking poly, and then it's also extension, essentially. But I think it's just like a very niche card in terms of, like, what are you realistically doing with it? I hit the vacuum and then I was like, okay, good. Yeah, this Dragoon is not long for this world. It's getting, stuck in the vacuum cleaner. But yeah, pretty simple cleanup here. At least I get the Parasite for game. And with that, I think we'll take a look at some actual games. Well, here we are. This is, I believe, even the first game I played of this event against Branded. Opponent has successfully bricked, even if, they're playing the absolutely incredible Cartesia Alt Art. And just passing on an Albion, which isn't the most impressive board, even if we can resummon Albaz. I go remote and normal summon remote in here, try and convert her into something playable because they've ashed me. I can Talons draws on Thrust finds me Fright for Patchwork. And from here on out, I think we can all see where this is going. I do fire the polymerization here into Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera attempts to pop a couple cards here. Do have to call by for the Albaz before that hits the board. I believe that was drawn off the triple tactics talent because I'm a sacky son of a nice woman. Repair unit for remote in here, just grabbing another remote and just wanting to like kind of turn things on into more board presence here, because I can easily link the remote into Clockwork Knight, use the second poly here for Magnum the Reliever, which as you can see immediately shuffles one of the polys back into the deck to not break like the Patchwork loop. Draw an additional card on the process, but I didn't feel like I needed to commit the smartphone. Because, you know, Guardian Chimera and Magnum probably have this board on lock pretty much. Opponent goes for fusion deployment here, doesn't realize the Albaz is still caught by the Grave. And as they go for the Cartesia, I say, okay, let's see you fuse with this asshole. And he still does, into Lubellion. Lubellion discards the final card of their hand, which is an Ash Blossom. They, for some reason, make Titaniclad and not Mirror Jade. Which I found very weird, because Mirror Jade, I think, just deals with the board, and then, you know, I'm kind of stuck there. But anyways, with that aside, I'm resolving the next fight for Patchwork for Chain Poly. Go for Smartphone here. Smartphone reveals a couple of very funny guys. Mainly Converter here is pretty funny because I can summon Vacuumin out of the deck. And Vacuumin cleanly deals the Titaniclad that would be unaffected by extra deck monsters. Allowing the Magnum Reliever to get in for game. But yeah, to kind of wrap this one up, I do have an 11-turn Nailbiter against Magical Muskets. Well, if you're only seeing 2 replays, I did cut one in the interest of time. But this is once again me going second here into what I believe is pure Magical Muskets. I did not bother checking the deck list beforehand again, but I'm pretty sure this is just pure Magical Musket. Yeah, we've seen this one. You know, it's a poly, it's a Guardian Chimera hitting the board, it's an Edgem Chain adding the Patchwork, drawing into probably the craziest 2 pieces of the Morphtronic engine you could be drawing into here. And Smartphone is nice enough to reveal a Reaper unit off top here. Before I, you know, just keep going. Telephone here, rolls a die, summons the cell phone back. I go for the Phoenix, trying to force out this last back row in the hopes that it's not something too relevant. It's Imperm, which probably keeps my opponent alive, which is not ideal, admittedly, because I'm not passing on a whole lot here. Also not like a whole lot of options I could have, you know, turned to here. Opponent gets to Max, and Max is an incredible card. Casually gets to add 3 here, uses the Crooked Crown to summon the Starfire, and gets to clear quite a bit of this board here. Nicely enough, Magical Musket usually has a Sky Striker problem where the deck can't out an untargetable idiot, but they seem to have been prepared for that with Ning Girsu, the World Chalice Warrior, which is certainly a tech of all time. I do go for the Patchwork here, just add guys. Feel like if they didn't go for like a Fiendsmith line last turn, they're probably not on Fiendsmith. So I can just kind of safely pass back because Magical Musket is not a deck that kills you out of the gate. Especially when you're at like almost full life points. Draw another turn, pass back to my opponent, don't want to give him like cards to, you know, hit with their spells. Kind of just accumulating resources to make one big push and maybe take over the game from there. Opponent sets another card, I draw into Southon, and this is the moment where I do kind of say to myself, hey, you know, now or never, go for the droplet here, get a second interaction of my opponent. Luckily enough, do get to resolve the Southon, even though it misses, which is quite unfortunate, as Kid Brave resolves, adds him another Magical Musket spell, as I go 1-for-1, discarding the Edgem Chain here for a Telephone, which still triggers, adding me a Threat for Patchwork to hand, but once again, I'm kind of stumped here. Opponent goes for Desires, banishes 10, draws 2, battle phase, punches me again, main 2, end phase, And here I kind of need to hope I can make something happen at the very least. Remote attempts to banish Southfawn here. Opponent attempts to ash me. I have the Caught by for the ash. Get to add a copy of Smartphone here, which of course is very handy because that's more extension keeping me in this game. Hoping I get a good reveal here, and Smartphone is a pretty darn good one. Putting that on the board as well, banishing the Telephone in the process, hitting Convert off the top, which is absolutely crazy. End up going with the Vacuum in because I think there's some nefarious things I have planned. As I go for Polymerization into a Magnum the Reliever, kind of expecting my opponent to fire some form of quick effect removal at this guy. To potentially have like a response, pop the Kid Brave so they don't get additional value. As I make an IP Masquerena here, going into combat, punching over the Kid Brave into punching with the IP Masquerena directly, and kind of daring my opponent to come at me, since I still have a Unicorn line, I believe, and the Magnum is of course also another piece of interaction. But they don't draw into another play, and I get to walk with this game. But yeah, with that, I think we'll take maybe a quick look at, you know, my match history for this event, and then I'll send you guys off. Well, kind of just, you know, scrolling through this. As you can tell, I got the minimum amount of wins in to walk with the government-mandated gem rewards here. But yeah, it worked fairly well when you're not exactly queuing into Malice, which I think I did exactly twice. Oh, this is Drytron. I think this was Malice. No, this. Oh God, we don't talk about this one. I think one of the early ones was Malice. Yeah, this guy opened like one of the Malice names, and I was like, okay, yeah, moving on. But looking at the stack, damn, maybe I should have kept going. Even though like one of the Malice names probably cleans my clock in this scenario. But yeah, overall, it felt good. Many decks just lack like the amount of like, you know, required payoffs to really build like a threatening board. So you can usually, you know, make your way past those with, you know, a lot of very punchy removal, especially in the form of Guardian Chimera. This is more of a gimmick than, you know, an actual list. But it was a fun gimmick for the event, and something that kept me from going insane by looping Telephone every game. So yeah, with all that being said, of course I would like to hear what you guys were playing for this event, because, you know, events usually bring out the creativity, maybe not in, you know, as crazy as a form as this list, but in a more reasonable frame. So yeah, let me know what you play for this event down in the comments below. I think that's usually one of the more interesting parts of doing these videos for the events. But yeah, with all that being said, I will be thanking you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.